Is Checo's seat in danger? Welcome to F1 Talks, episode 2, where we're gonna talk about the possibility of Checo maybe losing his seat. Before we delve deeper into it, let's talk about how Checo ended up in said situation. And this is actually kind of a funny yet sad story. And for those of you who did not start watching Formula One in the 2023 season, 23 started off very well for Sergio Perez. He won 2 out of the first 6 races. He was on, well, if, things played out, he could have won the championship. At least that was a trajectory in the first half of the 2023 season where he was doing very well. He was winning races, he was getting podiums, he was fighting with Max Verstappen. However, sometime halfway, or rather, I should say 1/3 into the season of 23, the car took a very sudden turn, I would say, in the development of the car. It became more of a Max Verstappen machine than a Formula One car. And what I mean by that is it is very evident, especially with this year, that the car is built and catered toward Max Verstappen. Again, that makes sense. However, that left Sergio Perez out to dry for nothing. He was left to fend for the Wolves, and since then his performance has declined. There are moments where he's good, like he was in Azerbaijan this year in 2024.
Yeah, about that.
However, the issue then is still that the car is not built for him the way he drives. This is very much a Max Verstappen car. This is not like a McLaren or Ferrari where the car is so balanced that both drivers can do phenomenally, right? And this year they've just gotten worse, He started off great. He got into a crash in Monaco, and then he went into a very low mental slump that he just has not been able to get out of. It was a really bad crash. He's called like crumpled. But again, it was in 2023. As Total Wolf said in Drive to Survive, he did in fact have it printed out.
I have it printed out.
And as much as I would like to sit here and clown on Sergio Perez, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because it's not his fault. It is Christian Horner's and Helmut Marko's fault. But, anyway, that is why we are having this discussion. It has gotten to the point where Sergio Perez has not been able to do anything for the team. I want to say for a good part of this season. Literally nothing. He hasn't scored a meaningful amount of points at all this season, I think, since Monaco, which is really bad for the team because they are now 3rd in the Constructors' Cup. And if Perez keeps performing like this for the last 3 races, there is no chance. By no chance, there's literally no way that they get the Constructors' Cup because McLaren is far ahead, Ferrari's far ahead. It's a Ferrari-McLaren battle, and Red Bull's just there because most of the points are Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen is bringing in majority of the points. That's the issue. Sergio Perez can't do shit and is not doing shit. Some of it is his fault, some of it is the car, but again, that's the issue. However, this is a world of Formula One where no one gives a flying shit if the car is not built for you. I mean, you look at Logan Sargent, right? He was taken out of Formula 2 way too early. He needed time to marinate. He needed time to get used to this environment, and they just threw him into Formula 1. It was like, survive. Franco Colapinto worked out. That's great. That's great for him. But again, not everyone's Franco Colapinto, right? So he was not performing. He got booted out. Daniel Ricciardo was not performing. He got booted out. Someone that's that beloved and brings in so many sponsors is just kicked out, which sucks. And you bring in Liam Lawson, who scores points one time, gains an attitude. But anywho. Now, is Checo's seat in danger? Long story short, it's a 50-50. The reason why I think he might keep it is there are 2 main reasons. He brings in the most amount of sponsors. People love Max, but Latin America loves Checo way more than people love Max. You do not understand the appeal that Checo Perez has. I went to the Austin race. I saw the Mexico race, obviously on TV. And even here down in LA, there are so many Checo Perez fans. I look at any Formula One event, I go to any Formula One bar, Checo, 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 Checo. Like, he's literally Mexican Tom Cruise. Like, that's actually, he's Mexican Tom Cruise. So, again, that amount of fan support Red Bull has, most of it is Sergio Perez. 70% of all of their merchandise that is sold is Sergio Perez merchandise. $17 million is put into Red Bull Oracle Racing because of Sergio Perez. Is that an asset that they can afford to lose? Yes. However, will they have major backlash? Will they lose a lot of their audience? Yes. The Latin American audience loves Perez, and getting rid of him is just not going to be a good decision. However, there is a sweet compromise that can be achieved. That's sending him to Racing Bulls or the secondary Red Bull team. I have an idea regarding that. We'll get to that first, but let's say Sergio Perez is out of his seat. Who takes it? The most logical choice is one of the junior drivers. You have, of the secondary team, you have Yuki Tsunoda, or you have Liam Lawson. I'm Liam Lawson! However, given his stint with, given his, how do I say this, behavior with other drivers, especially, ironically, Hispanic drivers.
Receipts, proof, timeline, screenshots, everything to prove that you are a bully and a troll, and you do not deserve.
He, again, that's a great mindset to have. However, if you're doing the same mistake multiple times, and there are multiple people who just do not like you, that's a you issue. That's not, oh my god, like, this is Formula One issue, So, again, I think that is something that might hinder his chances in the main Red Bull seat. Because if you're getting rid of someone that's as beloved as Checo, you need to put in someone who's as beloved as Checo. Liam Lawson is not one of those people. Yuki Tsunoda is. People love Yuki Tsunoda. He's funny, he's charismatic, he's a good driver. He would be great. Helmut Marko has vouched for him, and I think he would be the perfect teammate for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen hasn't had a teammate that pushes him to do better, to improve in ways that he just isn't already good in, right? His teammates have been, let's see, he had Carlos Sainz as his first teammate. Both of them were new. Again, Carlos Sainz, in his own right, has gone on to become one of the best drivers of this current generation of Formula One drivers. He's the most technical driver after Lewis Hamilton. But again, he wasn't at the time, Then you had Daniel Ricciardo, who was good, And then after Daniel, who was good. However, Daniel Ricciardo then left. And then you had Pierre Gasly. Then you had Alexander Albon. Then you have Sergio Perez. None of these drivers have pushed Max Verstappen, right? To change, to evolve. He's just been the number one de facto best, right? Which again, you could say, oh, he's a generational talent. However, talent is formed. You can still be really good and continue to change and adapt and become better. Look at Lewis Hamilton. He had Nico Rosberg, Fernando Alonso. He had Jenson Button. He had Valtteri Bottas. He had George Russell. All of these drivers have pushed Lewis to get better and better and better, to adapt how he drives, to think, how can I drive differently? And Max Verstappen has not. It's, I'm the Max Verstappen show. I have nothing else to show, right? He hasn't been pushed. And I think Yuki Tsunoda is someone who can. Am I saying that he's going to be as good as him? No. Right? Max Verstappen is a once-in-a-generational talent. He is one of the GOATs already, and arguably is one of the GOATs. You cannot argue that. He has 3, arguably 4 now, championships. He has so many race wins. He had the most dominant season in any person of Formula One, So, I think Yuki Tsunoda would be perfect. And again, the major issue that Checo has is the car is not built for him. But Yuki drives very similarly to how Max Verstappen drives. The way that their cars are set up are very similar. So that would be perfect for Red Bull they don't have to focus their attention into creating a balanced car. They can focus in on Max Verstappen because Yuki Tsunoda drives exactly like Max Verstappen. That's literally like that is perfect case for Red Bull. Helmut Marquez also urged for it. However, I think Christian Horner is the one who is on the fence. I don't know what it is. Obviously, Red Bull wants him to go onto the main team, and I think he'd be great on the main team. However, I don't know whether he's being racist, which I wouldn't put beyond him. He's British, white, and I don't like Christian Horner all that very much, if I'm being frankly honest. I just don't. Something about his smug face and him complaining every 5 seconds just pisses me off. But anywho. I don't know. I mean, Yuki makes the most sense. Liam Lawson, hell no. Another name that has been thrown around a lot is Franco Colapinto. Obviously, he's done amazing in Williams. He's done phenomenal in Williams. He's pushed Alexander Albon to get better. Obviously, the first 2 races, Alex had a little bit of bad luck, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Alex is so washed." And we've seen since then that Albon is better. He's pushed the car into Q3 many times. It's just he's been getting unlucky, and he's been making very obvious mistakes. And I think Carlos going there next year and just sort of push the team in the right direction is a very good decision on both him and Vowles for Williams moving forward. But anywho, I think Franco, I don't know exactly how he drives, what his exact formation is, how he likes his car, front heavy, back heavy. However, I think he would be great as a replacement for Sergio Perez. He will be able to get points. He's shown that he can drive a Formula 1 car really well. I think he could drive the way Max Verstappen drives. That solves your development issues. He is already very beloved by the Latin American audience, which is, again, Checo's audience. And again, you trade in one for another, and I think a lot of people will be fine with it, So that crosses a lot of boxes. However, you have an issue of, can he compete with Max Verstappen? He's able to kind of sometimes compete with Alex Albon, but then you have Max Verstappen, right? How will that work out? And I think that Daniel Ricciardo is someone who fits the bill perfectly. He has done the best in Red Bull. He loves the way that Red Bull drives. Him and Max drive very similar styles in terms of how the car is built, not how they drive on track. And again, Daniel Ricciardo knows that he's past his prime. He knows that I can't win a championship, or at least it will be very difficult for me, but at least I can help Max Verstappen win one, right? On the driving side of things, that's perfect. But then if you look at off track, Max and Daniel have a phenomenal relationship. They get along very well. And not to mention, people love Daniel Ricciardo. Sponsors love and adore Daniel Ricciardo. That takes care of your sponsor issue. That takes care of your merch issue, right? Daniel is a perfect fit. Yuki is a perfect fit. Lawson is a little bit of left field. I don't think that would be a good decision. It might be, but again, do you want to risk losing so many sponsors? I think Franco is a bit of a wild card. He could be good. He could bring in sponsors. But again, it's too early to tell right now. Another name that I've seen been thrown around is Carlos Sainz. Now, obviously, he has signed with Williams. If you guys don't know, Alex Albon is a Red Bull racing driver who is leased out to Williams to drive for Williams. However, it could be the reverse case scenario for Carlos. He could be a Williams driver that's leased out to Red Bull. I wouldn't put it past Christian Horner. Obviously, Versailles, they debuted together, they raced together. He was not promoted to the main team. Max Verstappen was, and again, Max Verstappen's Max Verstappen, and you have Carlos Sainz, who is one of the most technical drivers on the grid. After Lewis, he is the most technical driver. He knows how the car should be built. He knows how the engine should be built. And I honestly think he is the type of driver who can just thrive in any car. That's pretty good. Same with Lewis Hamilton. You give him a car that's decent, and he can make magic. So can Fernando, so can Carlos. And I think Carlos going to Red Bull could work. Sponsors love him. People love his merch. People would go crazy for his merch. People would go crazy for signs that solves on and off track issues. However, the main issue is that you're gonna have to pay him you're gonna have to pay him big money. Big money. Will Christian Horner be okay with doing that? I think so. However, do you want to give Max Verstappen a teammate who is not going to follow team orders? Carlos Sainz will and has followed team orders. However, the issue is he has and will have an agenda against Ferrari. Arguably, honestly, rightfully so. So do I. Because they did him so dirty by teaching his ass. So do you want someone who is going to be angry, who will be a good teammate, but in the end of the day is going to want to win and is going to want to take the championship from his own teammate? I don't think so. Because that creates internal drama, and I think that's the same issue Ferrari is going to have this year, and I think that's the same issue McLaren had this year, because they didn't know who to prioritize. Right? But yeah, I think if I were to objectively rank all the drivers, I would say Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki are top tier picks. Then I would say you bring in Carlos Sainz. Then after that, Franco Colapinto. I think Liam Lawson would just be a horrible decision. I like him, but I don't think he would be a good pairing with Max Verstappen. I don't think that would not end well for Lawson. I think it's gonna end up being like a Pierre Gasly or Albon situation, and I think him just staying in the junior team would make more sense. However, if Checo is sent to the secondary team, Liam Lawson's out of a seat anyways, so he should probably go to Formula E or IndyCar, if I'm being honest. But actually, he's still very young, so he could still get a chance. But again, that's if Perez is replaced and if Perez is given the chance in the second team. If he is, I think the only way that Red Bull can save face is if they make that, instead of a secondary sister Red Bull team, have it be its own thing, how Williams became their own thing and not just a Mercedes feeder, right? They could easily just have the team be built around Sergio Perez, build a car the way Perez wants, and then the second driver who can drive and learn with Perez, and then move up to the Red Bull seat eventually, right? And I think that is the best thing for Perez, would be to accept, if given the opportunity, to go into the sister team and to make that team his own team. And he can definitely do it. Or just Red Bull to get their shit together and make a car that both of them can drive. That's not that hard. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Checo maybe losing his seat. Yeah, what do you guys think?